All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Minisode number 5 on the More Than Fitness podcast. Now I'm looking at my camera in front of me, right? I've got my tripod up. I am going to be videoing all the Minisodes from here on out, right? So I'm in my office right now. I've got Zion the zebra right here. I've got my plant. I've got my Conquer Your Inner Bitch, courtesy of Joe Rogan mug, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good. It's exciting to not just stare at my laptop this entire time. I'm going to try and make sure that I go back and forth between looking at my laptop, looking at the video. But I'm excited to do this. And in this minisode today, we are going to be talking about how to calculate your macros, right? So this is a topic that everybody is wondering about, right? They're trying to figure out how many macros they should eat for their body. Should they count calories and macros at all? And I'm not going to go too in depth with this since this is a minisode, but I'm just going to do a brief overview kind of everything, right? And first, what I would say, whenever calculating macros, you have to figure out what your goal is first. So I would suggest to pick one of two goals. I would either choose to focus completely on building muscle, so more so a calorie surplus, right? You're trying to eat more calories than you're expending so that you can use those extra calories to build some muscle mass. Or I would choose fat loss. So 100% muscle gain or 100% fat loss. And of course, whenever you're trying to lose body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. But whenever you choose one of those two goals, that's going to give you a good estimate. That's going to give you the direction that you need to make sure that what you're doing is working, right? Because we need to figure out what we're measuring in the first place. Because you can't, you can start eating a certain macro goal and a certain calorie goal, but if you don't know what you're actually looking for those processes to result in, it's like, then it's pointless, right? So pick either muscle gain or fat loss. I know you probably want to do both, but just figure out which one you want to do more at this moment and then start there, right? And so next, what I would do is a lot of people will use macro calculators or equations or things like that. And I think those are okay, right? I think it's going to be a good starting point for a lot of people. But the way that I teach my clients, basically I just tell them what to do and then I analyze their data. But how I get their calorie maintenance, how I figure out where I need to set their calories, I take a different approach than just plugging in their stats into a macro calculator and then going from there. So what I do instead is I tell them at least for 1 week to eat completely normal. And this is difficult for a lot of them, but for the most part, I'm just like, hey, don't change hardly anything that you're doing. Try to eat as normal, quote unquote, normal as possible for the next 7 days, right? From there, what I tell them to do is just to track at least 4 days for me. And you have to include at least one of those days as a weekend, because we all know that Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday looks a lot different than Friday and Saturday. So yeah, at least 4 days total of your calorie intake every single day. And then at least one of those being a weekend. So either Friday or Saturday. And then from there, what you want to do is take the average of those 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers, however many days you decided to track. And then what that's going to do is that's going to give you a baseline of what your average looks like on a quote unquote normal week. Okay. And then from there, I also, let me rewind a little bit. What I also want you to do is to start weighing yourself every single day. So at least, again, 4 days a week. That's just all this stuff is just giving us data. It doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to try and hit a certain calorie mark because you feel bad that you normally eat 3,000 calories a day, or that whenever you start weighing yourself, you start feeling bad about whatever that number is. You haven't weighed yourself in a long time, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. What the point is, we need an accurate starting point. And if you mess with the accuracy of that just because you feel bad about, or you don't want to be honest about whatever those numbers are, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So be as honest as possible. You're the only one that's going to know these numbers anyway, right? So what I want you to do instead is to track your food for 4 days and then track your weight in the morning. So whenever you wake up, use the restroom, weigh yourself right after that. Do that every single morning, right? You want to make it as consistent as possible. And then after that, again, you're going to have an average of how much you weigh. That's going to be it's going to be about your baseline for your true weight, because weight obviously fluctuates day to day. That's why if you take data from several days and then average it out, you're going to get close to your true weight here. And then what I simply want you to do is to continue eating at that average baseline, whatever it is. So if your average came out to be 2,200 calories a day, right? I want you to try and hit within 50 calories both ways. So if your goal is 2,200, you're hitting within, like 2,150 to 2,250, right? Somewhere along in there. Try and hit that each day, at least as close as you can. And try and do that for 14 days, right? And from there, then I want you to analyze your weight trends. So if you're eating 2,200 calories each day and then you notice that your weight is starting to go down, well, I mean, if you're trying to lose body fat, then you're on the right track, right? You're eating in a calorie deficit. You're burning more calories than you're consuming, and so this is a good sign, right? If you're trying to lose body fat, if your weight is going up on 2,200 calories, then okay, I'm in a calorie surplus right now. And if I'm trying to gain muscle mass, this is okay. This is pretty good. But if I'm trying to lose body fat, I know that I'm going to have to adjust that down. So, right, all we're trying to do here is figure out where your calorie maintenance levels is. So that's about your calorie maintenance is where your weight is going to stay about the same. So if you eat 2,000 calories, for example, let's say that's your weight maintenance or your calorie maintenance, you're going to stay at that same weight if you keep eating 2,000 calories every single day. So yeah, from there, analyze those weight trends, and that's going to give you a good idea of where your calories should fall. So let's say that we want to lose body fat. 2,200 calories is about our maintenance. And so we're like, okay, we're not going to go anything super aggressive. All we're going to start doing is we're going to aim for 2,000 calories a day, right? So now we have our calorie goal. We have 2,000 calories a day. That's about what you're going to hit. And I would suggest to use a range of that. So I would do more like 1,950 to 2,050. You can even expand it out a little bit more than that. But as long as you're hitting around 2,000 calories each day, you're going to be in great shape, right? So there you go. You have your calories for the day. And now we're going to break that up into macronutrients. And rewind real quick. If you're trying to gain muscle, and 2,200 calories is your maintenance, you're maintaining your weight on 2,200 calories, let's bump that up a little bit to like 2,400 calories. Because again, it doesn't take too much in either direction to start seeing changes happen. And in the beginning, it's going to be a lot of trial and error anyway. So don't put too much pressure on yourself on this. Again, we're just gathering data within the first 4 to 8 weeks of starting a diet or a bulk or whatever you decide to do. But there's a lot of trial and error that is involved here. So just take it for what it is and just remember, it's just data. That's all it is, right? Okay, back to fat loss. So we're eating 2,000 calories a day. Now, the first thing I would recommend is to calculate your protein. And for most people, I'm going to say, especially if you've never calculated your macros before, that means you're pretty new to all this. I would just go for 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, right? So if you're let's see, let me do the math. Let me do the math here real quick. So if you're 180 pounds, right, and you times that by 0.8, 0.8, you've got 144 grams of protein. So you're 180 pounds, you're trying to lose body fat, and so you're supposed to hit 2,000 calories a day, and then we're also going to hit 144 grams of protein minimum each day. To make it easy for a lot of people, you can just go 1 gram per pound, but for some people, that can be a lot of protein. And if you're on the heavier side, if you've got a little bit more body fat than whatever, a quote unquote average individual, I would definitely go down to the 0.7 to 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, just because if you're 250 pounds, like getting in 250 grams of protein it's probably not necessary for you. So instead, go around that 0.7 to 0.8 grams of protein. And that's going to be a good starting point. That'll give you your calories for the day and your protein for the day, right? Just use that as a minimum. And again, you may be close to this each day starting off, or you may be further away than this. So if you're usually you start tracking your calories for these first 2 weeks or something, and then you realize, oh shit, I'm only eating like 80 grams of protein per day, and I'm supposed to eat 150 grams of protein per day. It's like, okay, well, expecting yourself to go up from 80 to 150 every single day, there's gonna need to be some behavior changes in there, some eating pattern change and stuff like that. So just instead of going straight from 80 to 150, just go up to like 110. So that would just be add in an extra protein shake each day or something. Go up 20 grams of protein and start there. Again, this is a long-term habit that you're trying to build. So take it incrementally as you need to, right? And then from there, so let's say, again, we use the 180 pound example, 2,000 calories a day, 144 grams of protein per day. And if we add up the math here, so 144 grams, please don't fall asleep on me. I know this stuff can get boring. However, I'm gonna get you guys through this. 144 grams of protein. Each gram of protein has 4 calories per gram. So what we're gonna do is take 144, multiply it by 4, right? So we've got 576. So 576 calories of your 2,000 calories are going to come from protein. So let's do 2,000 minus 576. Now we have roughly 1,400 calories to play with to distribute it between carbs and fats, right? What I would actually recommend is hit your calories, hit within the range of your calories, hit within your range of protein, and then with these extra calories, you don't even necessarily need to hit a carbohydrate or a fat goal. The research has been pretty clear that they're basically interchangeable. Of course, they matter in their own separate ways, but if a client comes to me and they're like, hey, and I actually asked this on my client analysis form when they first sign up with me, I'm like, hey, do you prefer fatty foods or carby foods, or does it not matter? If they say fatty foods, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this person a little bit more fat to play around with from their calorie target than their carbohydrates. If they like carby foods, I'm like, okay, we're going to do higher carb and lower fat, right? And then you can just play with those amounts, and whatever allows you to stick to your diet the best, that's going to be the best carbohydrate and fat goal for you. I would try to avoid going too high on either end. Really, mine's the approach that I usually take is usually a moderate to high carb to a moderate to low fat. For most people, that tends to work out just fine. But if you want some specifics on exactly how many, so this is from Renaissance Periodization, RP Strength. Those guys are amazing. They're super smart, way smarter than I am. And the recommendations that they give for protein is going to be 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, right? And then for carbohydrates, they say whenever you're in a calorie deficit, whenever you're trying to lose body fat, consume a minimum of 1 gram per pound, 1 gram of carbs per pound of body weight on training days, and 0.3 grams per pound on rest days. So whenever you're training, 1 gram per pound. When you're resting, 0.3 grams per pound. You can do it that way, or you can meet it somewhere in the middle, which is what I usually do. And I like to give my clients, because I try and make it as consistent as possible each day, because we also want to make sure that we're not making it any harder than we have to, right? So if every single day can look about the same, then you're going to be in good shape. For fats, they put on here, consume a minimum of 0.3 grams per pound of body weight, right? So I think with fats, the thing is like whenever you meet your minimum criteria for your fat intake, like whenever you get all your bases covered, and then all of your essential functions from fat in your body are taken care of. So we've got vitamin absorption, we've got hormone regulation, and just like overall health in general. Whenever you get those covered, more fats aren't necessarily going to do anything. It's not like if you keep eating more saturated fat or more omega-3s or more polyunsaturated fats or something, more olive oil, etc. It's like, it's not going to do you any good. So what I would say instead is to keep your fats and well, actually mostly I would keep your protein about the same. So whenever you calculate it, keep it there. And then all I would do whenever you're changing up your calories. So if you're eating 2,000 calories a day and you're losing fat for the first 4 weeks or something, and then let's say you hit a plateau and you need to further the deficit because your body's going to adapt to those amount of calories, right? Whenever you have to adjust, all I would do is just take away a little bit of carbs and a little bit of fat. So for an example of this would be like take away 15 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fat. That's going to be about 100 extra calories that you take away each day, and that should keep progress rolling, right? So use those guidelines. I'll make sure that I put this all in the description. I also have 2 articles on this topic, but I thought it'd be cool if I came on here and kind of put them both together. The first one on my website is called How to Lose Fat. And the second one is how to set up a calorie deficit for fat loss in 6 steps. I'll make sure I link both of those in the description. But yeah, I hope this is a good starting point for you guys with your macros. And yeah, I hope it helps you reach your goals a little bit faster. Okay, until next time, see ya.